What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Werewolves Den. Today we're going to take a quick look at something that I came across on Disney+. We've been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks since it was revealed, I think, back on the D23 event in September. It's Werewolf by Night. Now, right off the bat, I gotta say, I was a little disappointed that I didn't realize this show was a one-off, and it's more like a Halloween special, that there's only this one episode. It's about 48 minutes long or so, and that it's not an ongoing series. I'll touch on it a little bit more in the full review coming up, but it's they had a lot to play with here, and I think this is kind of a missed opportunity. But let me give you a couple little bits and pieces of what's going on in the story, and then I'll do some likes and dislikes. And as always, you know, smash a like if you don't mind, comment if you guys watched the show and enjoy or didn't enjoy, sub to the channel. We're growing little by slow, and I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate you guys stopping back by to check out the rants, raves, and reviews. And so yeah, much love for all that. Thank you. Werewolf by Night is a pretty straightforward story. They have a lot that they could work with, but they don't really cut deep enough into any of it. The quick synopsis is the leader of a secret society of monster hunters dies, passes on. They don't say how. He's in possession of a treasure called the Bloodstone, which is kind of like a central relic to this monster hunter society. It has power over monsters that exist in the world. It's a powerful object. So the rest of, or we don't know that because they don't answer, but some of the monster hunters convene at his estate, their primary temple, I think it's called the Bloodstone Temple, to sort out who's going to take over leadership. And the way they're going to settle that is they're going to affix the Bloodstone to a monster they've captured, release it into a private garden, like a labyrinth maze, kind of, you know, little battlegrounds, if you will. And whomever comes away with the Bloodstone wins and will take over being the head of the secret society. Up front, it looks really cool. It's all black and white. It's very gritty. It looks like an old Universal's Pictures kind of monster movie with kind of like sepia tones. Like I said, like the black and white. There's lots of candlelight and torchlight effects and things like that. Characters are dressed for the most part like they're from other places, deeper into, you know, deeper into the annals of history, and it's not all present day. Well, basically, you get 4 or 5 people come in. They have their little setup where the deceased leader of the society's wife lays out the rules of what's going to go on, how leadership is going to be determined, and then they basically all get chucked into said labyrinth where they're going to sort out the monster hunting business. But there's a couple of twists. First of all, they can kill each other. The monster hunters, that is. They can actually eliminate each other from the game and increase the odds that they secure the Bloodstone. I don't know if that, I didn't really add up on that. I'm going to talk about that more in a bit. And then we get a plot twist, spoilers, that one of the hunters isn't exactly what he seems, and that's kind of where the title character leads into the story. And it goes pretty well. There are some things that I like that go down in the single episode that we get. You know, the looks of things is very cool. It is definitely very different than anything Marvel's given us, and even through the opening credits and the exposition that they give, kind of basically says that there's always been 2 worlds, and there's the world above, and they give you like a black and white tableau of the original 6 Avengers, but then it kind of dips down like into the underworld, and there's like a different set of characters down there. So they let you know that this is going to be something different. In fact, even the opening credits where we get the Marvel, like the flickering movie roll of all the different characters that Marvel's had, they drain it of color, they hit it with black and white, and they lay over some classic movie screams and, like, you know, werewolf slash kind of marks on it, which was kind of cool. It set a different tone. So I definitely like that. The performances we get across the board were pretty good. They were tonally very appropriate for what we were trying to get. Some of them were a little on the campy side, but not much. And I thought the 3 main leads, you know, Jack Russell, Elsa, and I think the name was Venusa, was the deceased, was the widowed wife of the gentleman that was in charge of the secret society. They're all pretty good. The widow kind of hands up a little bit at the end, but it's to be expected. This wasn't supposed to be like a serious drama or anything like that, despite the dramatic elements that it had. But so all in all, it's pretty good. The story is definitely interesting. I like secret societies and things. I like the unseen world that kind of coexists with the living world, and that there are some people that have to bridge the gap in between to keep, you know, humanity safe from the things that go bump in the night. So I mean, that's all good stuff. So there's a lot of that in this episode. or the show, because it's only the one-off. Combat gets gory in places. You get a severed limb, you get a couple of severed throats in a couple of places. One guy dies a really graphic, like, strangulation death when he gets shot through the throat. It was pretty savage. A couple of the fight scenes between the title character, the werewolf, they get pretty ugly down the stretch. So I applaud Marvel for doing something fairly hardcore, and it gives me a slight amount of hope that if they ever get their hands on the Punisher, that you get something that isn't completely sanitized and sterilized. That wasn't bad. We'll get into some dislikes here. They're more meh than dislike, because there's nothing really bad with it that I could see. But I think, like, once again, what we've done here with this Disney Plus show is there's just not enough story. They hint at things that are interesting. It leaves you with way more questions of hows and whys than you're ever going to get answered, especially in a one-off format. So that was kind of disappointing. Like, I wanted to know more about Jack's background, how he became, the werewolf. I wanted to know more about the organization. I wanted to know where the Bloodstone came from, what their history looked like, and we're never going to get that because this was, like I said, a one-off, so it's like it's done. They also kind of get you into a spot with even some of the side characters. I don't remember any of their names. I don't remember any of the names from the hunters that showed up, any of them besides Elsa. And they had a couple of, so the actors were all really good, and I wish I knew their names, and that they were a little bit more visually distinctive besides just their skin color and the one guy talking with the Scottish accent. So we had the Scottish guy, a black gentleman, and I think he was Asian of some extraction. But stylistically, they were all dressed in darker clothes. They didn't really carry anything unique or iconic in terms of weaponry. Because they all define their gear like inside the labyrinth. So it was just kind of like, I wanted to know more about each of them. They mentioned in the introductions of all these characters before the event starts, each of the number of monster kills that they have, which was kind of cool, because I'm like, oh, all right, there could be some rivalry in here. We could get a little gotcha and a little back and forth, but that's over as soon as they get into the arena area, and it's kind of like, at that point, it's every man for themselves, and I'm kind of like, well, I wanted to know more about this guy, or I wanted to know about where that weapon came from, or who built the temple, or what other cool things have gone on, what other animals or monsters have they captured and had in the temple for combat. And they kind of shy away from all of that. And I think my biggest meh kind of coming away from the episode is, once again, Disney Plus, MCU, they give us the title of a show, and it's Werewolf by Night, but it's somebody else's show. And this episode was definitely the Elsa show. Elsa, as it turns out, is the most fleshed out character in the show, where she's got a little bit of backstory that they give you. She's the estranged daughter who ran away or was estranged somehow from her father, the leader of the monster hunting group, like 20, 30 years ago or so. But she's come back to reclaim her birthright. They get into a little bit of the drama between her and her father. A slight amount of they showcase some dislike between her and the deceased father's wife, the widow. And it's like all of this comes at the expense of not letting Jack have any backstory of his own. They don't get into anything that happened to him before he got here, other than his primary purpose, as they reveal, to coming to the show not actually being to recover the Bloodstone, but it's actually to, spoiler alert, but I said that up front, is to free the monster they've captured because they're friends or family or some bullshit. It's like, it's every cool thing that happens in the show happens to her. She has the best fight scenes. She has the best one-liners. She has, she gets the drop on everybody she needs to get the drop on. And it's too bad because they play her out even though she does get slightly wounded. And I'm sure they threw that in there because they've heard this complaint about a lot of their female characters over the past couple of years, that they're perfect and never get hurt. Well, dude, she treats her own wound and barely needs, anybody's help in doing so. And then she engages in combat after the fact. It's like a scratch to the leg kind of thing that they play off as being kind of serious, but it's definitely not. It doesn't impact her in any meaningful way. But I digress too far down that road. It's too bad that they went that route with this show, because I feel like that the Elsa character could have carried a show on her own. She reminded me of Celine from Underworld. Like, she's badass, she can fight, she can handle herself. They mentioned that she's had training, she came up in this monster hunting world, so it's not completely outside the realm of reason there. I don't mind that. But again, it all comes at the expense of the title character. So at a base level, this really is another bait and switch. So you're talking about a comic book character who's had You know, like I said in my initial reaction to the trailer for this video, like this dude's had like a 50-year run. It's a legacy character that's it's changed from Jack Russell into Jake Gomez, who has a different backstory than Jack's. He's got a power set. He's had interactions with the Avengers. He's had interactions with Morbius and other like, you know, top tier characters. But they disregard all of that here, just put him in a place to be once again like another bumbling male, because he is. You know, they get to the point in this show where he decides that it's in their best interest for him and Elsa to team up so they can both get what they want and get out. And he drops the ball on his part of the plan like a fumbling idiot, while she goes and does the fighting and the rescuing of his buddy, the monster that's, you know, being gets captured. And I'm kind of like, oh, okay, so that's just one more guy that they just kind of shit on to make a show out of. And at least the production value and the writing was okay, so it's not as jarring, and I won't complain too hard about it. But they could have just made the Elsa show and called it like Heir to Bloodstone or something, and it would have been fine, and nobody would have cared, because it would have just been her show from the jump. But like for a show about werewolves, you get, you know, 15, you know, I'm exaggerating of course, but you get like 15 seconds of him in werewolf form under like a contrived circumstance at the end of the episode, and it has no impact on the story at all. Like zilch, like everything that happens at that point could have happened had he not been there. Like nothing interesting happens from him being compelled to become the wolf because they keep him captured on a full moon when the escape plan goes wrong. So there's that. They need to get away from that and just stick to source material, or just title things with new titles and let them sink or swim on their own. So really, at the end of the day, I have like 3 questions about the show that kind of just annoyed me, just in terms of the story production. Like they should have thought these things through a little bit better. And the first thing that comes to mind is, why are the monster hunters allowed to hunt each other when they go into the labyrinth? It seems to me that if humanity's outnumbered and there's monsters everywhere, you'd want to keep everybody up and well as best you can, even if it's in terms of for competing for leadership of the group. Like if these are the best of the best, or if these are just whoever showed up, or these are the last 5 or 6 monster hunters alive, how does it help anybody to get them all killed in pursuit of the one artifact when you're all out there killing monsters, even if you don't have the Bloodstone anyway? So I really didn't get that. It didn't make much sense. It should have been more of like a team-up situation where they're all trying to bring the monster down, and then maybe one of them screws the other one to get the stone. But again, that requires a series and a little bit more forethought in plotting out a longer arc than a one-off. So I mean, I understand why they ended up what they did, but it doesn't hold up to scrutiny, which is kind of weird. And I have a point of contention with Elsa too. As much as she's okay with the character and gets away with the things she gets away with, she complains at one point that she came back after all this time so she could be done with it all. Why the fuck did you come back? If you were out, stay out. Nobody compelled you to come back. Like, there was no contract. Nobody went to your house and kidnapped you and forced you to compete. So I don't get it. And these are the character motivations like that really do need to add up. They need to make sense and be easily explained within the context of the show of what compelled her to come back, to claim the birthright. Why? You were out there and trained independent of all those things for 20, 30 some odd years. You didn't need to come back to be done with it. You were done with it, and nobody here wanted you back. So it kind of fell flat a little bit on that particular point. And I got one more here from you off the list of questions. It's a question for Jack. Like, bro, your plan was to come into this group's temple, and you're a part of the hunters because they let you in. So I guess that's a second question that I throw out there is, who cleared all these people to get in? Like, he had the medallion to get in, so he's part of the group, but nobody knows about his werewolf secret. Whatever. Okay. One more thing we're not going to get explained because this is a one-off. But like, dude, you came through to rescue a monster friend of yours who had been captured and compelled to be part of the game of determining who's the next leader of the group. So the group takes the Bloodstone, affixes it to the monster's back to piss him off and weaken him and make him more dangerous in the compound. So the events of the show happen. The Bloodstone gets yanked off of the monster, the stone gets ripped off his back, it's laying on the ground, and Jack runs up to it, and when he touches it, it does the energy explosion, throws him back, reveals his status as a werewolf to everybody else that's around, and then he gets, you know, captured, taken into custody. Ted's already escaped, and they take Elsa into custody for being complicit. Like, my question is, dude, what was the plan there? Like, you're not wearing like leather hunting gloves or anything like that. Like, you tried to barehand a thing that you knew would expose you. Like, what was the angle? Like, why didn't you just let Elsa have it and you go about your business and she wins and la-di-da? So, I mean, the plot kind of falls apart right around that point, because everything after that is him and Elsa being in a cage and expected to, you know, he's expected to turn when the full moon rolls through and kill her because, you know, stepmom didn't want her around anyway. But it all kind of, that kind of part, it does go off the rails a little bit there. But I mean, overall, would I recommend this to anybody to watch? And the answer is yes, I probably would. I told a couple of friends and my younger brother who's into the Marvel stuff, it's worth a watch because it's a one-off and because it's done well. You can't apply a whole lot of scrutiny to it in terms of the story, or it does fall apart. And most people probably won't be annoyed by Elsa running the show as much as I might have been, because I've just seen this pattern one too many times with the MCU Disney Plus stuff. Because the story is presented well and the production value is high and things look cool. You know, I'll leave you with one nitpick though, even after those questions, is the one-off is shot and everything around looks old, like it's supposed to be gothic and it's supposed to be from the time before kind of thing. But it's funny because once they're in the compound and we're dealing with Jack's potential transformation into the werewolf and him being in the cage with Elsa, I noticed that the security guards that are all there have very modern looking, like, tactical body armor. They've got the mounted headlamps on very modern looking, you know, anti-ballistic like helmets, and they're all carrying like shock sticks that look very modern. It's not magic. There's no sorcery implied with any of that. It just looks very tech. Even the outfits that they're wearing beneath the tactical gear look like modern BDUs. So I kind of wasn't sure what the time frame was supposed to be. Like, was it supposed to be like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and kind of set, you know, in the 20s or 30s? But then that kind of yanked me out of the moment when I watched those kind of parts. Nobody pulls like guns or anything like that. There's no modern rifles or anything like that. There's no modern grenades or RPGs. There's no tracking equipment or anything like that. So it just kind of stood out amongst everything else being what looked like, for entertainment purposes, like period specific to being before like the digital age. It just kind of looked a little off, but nothing awful. So like I was saying, I would recommend you to check this out at least once. You probably won't remember a whole lot of it. It won't be anything that gets added to your annual Halloween, you know, playbacks as you get into the spooky season. But that's all I got on this one, guys. I dug it for the most part. It's not bad. And I appreciate you guys sticking around for this one. Like I said before, let me know in the comments below if you've watched it, if you plan to watch it, if you had any likes or dislikes with it. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to keep seeing me nitpick on some of these things. And I will see you gratefully in the next one. Take it easy, guys.